All right, well, welcome back to another fun-filled episode of The High Ground here at PopCon Indy for our very first live podcast here at the PopCon Indy event. As we were just talking about a couple minutes ago, been here before. Great crowd, great people, gotta love it. A little something for everybody. Matt's very first time here, isn't that correct?
Yeah, first time at PopCon at really any Comic-Con.
Well, and this is just a little bit of background for this. We started this podcast roughly right about a year ago, I think. Yeah, right about this time last year. It's really just a way to have fun, way to enjoy kind of doing what we already do. And lo and behold, a year later here, we're getting to have fun doing this live, releasing video on various panels, social media, etc. And at the end of the day, it's really just a good time. You know, obviously the name of the High Ground, anybody that's a Star Wars fan out there, usually they're, probably pick up on it right away. Throwback to episode 3. I've had even some ask me, oh, is that a reference to something else? I'm like, no, I had to clarify before the conversation gets out of hand. But overall, really solid experience so far. It's been a lot of fun, and honestly, we'll just keep doing it until we get bored of it, but I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I mean, we do this for free all the time. We just sit around, banter, and talk about Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, so why not make something of it?
Well, if nothing else, it's a good time, and it's never a boring time.
Yeah, no, we're going to do it either way, so might as well put it on film.
Well, today's episode, and just kind of honoring the name of it, we thought our primary discussion today would be obviously pretty Star Wars centric. Today, we're going to kind of got a little technical problems with live events. Today's main topic we're covering is over something that might be somewhat controversial, but it's one of those just kind of hear us out and maybe save judgment till the very end. Essentially, a long-term debate back and forth, which is better, the Empire or the Rebellion in the original films. Now, at the end of the day, yes, there's always the whole good versus evil dynamic. The way the movie's set up has you rooting for the good guys, cheering when the bad guys lose, etc. But today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into things. And if nothing else, just maybe offer an alternative perspective and maybe kind of just see where things go. So, first and foremost, before we start off, what do we think, Matt? Do we think that Empire has at least a solid argument for, hey, not 100% the bad guys, at least in some... hey, they're actually helping some people out as opposed to just being an evil empire?
Well, with every evil empire, there's always a cast of citizens that have had their lives improved. Usually it's the rich and powerful. There's no difference in our society versus the empire. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. So it all depends on perspective. And in some perspective, the empire was better for some and worse for others.
Well, and it's, like I said, it's kind of framed as such as, good versus evil, this, that, and the other. But, you never really hear the backstory. And I will at least give Disney this, that they're actually exploring some of the side stories and backstories that maybe you didn't think about before, with shows like Andor or, really kind of dive a little bit deeper into these kind of worlds and characters.
Yeah, they show the inner workings of the Empire that really weren't put on screen before.
Well, and what's the new one that just came out, the Darth Maul series, where it kind of explores kind of the underworld of everything, and it kind of shows what was going on.
Yep, and some of the political aspects that even though that some planets were under Empire control, that they were still pretty reluctant to have the help of the Empire.
Well, and that's the thing too. Is you think about the movies mainly just show like the big two sides. The highest level of government on both sides, but then you have everybody that's caught in between. That's whether just people just living out their lives or people just trying to start their business, just trying to get by, and then it's just all these people kind of just left out. All these different stories that have the capability to be told, but maybe they just haven't been so far.
So, in your opinion, who's better, Empire, Rebellion? Who is better for the galaxy?
1 hour left, so check those bids, see if you're number 1, and if you are, meet us at Bigger Red at 2 o'clock.
Wait on the wave.
And my mommy said I'm number 1.
Well, I mean, I'm sure she, whatever helps you sleep at night. But I digress. So let's jump right into it. So first and foremost, whether you like them, hate them, somewhere in between, the Empire as a system essentially, whether good guys, bad guys, they brought together kind of a coherent system. What I mean by that is there's some kind of structure to the whole thing. There's the regular police force, there's the public services, there's the, whether it be employment, et cetera, that, regardless of the motives, you could make the argument that, hey, it helped keep things stable as opposed to unstable in the galaxy.
Things were pretty stable before the Empire, though. And I'll keep it pretty simple in my opinion. The Rebels won. Does that not ultimately make them better?
Well, I mean, just because, and I feel like you can probably think of a lot of different, examples of this, perhaps offline. But just because somebody wins doesn't necessarily mean that they were better. I mean, they could have just gotten lucky. They could have just been in the right place at the right time. It doesn't necessarily mean better.
So you're saying Luke got lucky?
Well, I mean, I think you'd need a fair amount of luck. I mean, you can have the Force on your side all day long, but I think you need a fair amount of luck to be able to hit the exhaust port that's, no more than 2 meters wide.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that was the will of the Force.
Well, I mean, I guess you could argue back and forth all day about it, but then you probably get into the discussion of, okay, how influential is it? Is it, was it 100% the Force? Was it 90, 10% luck? Was it his partial skill as a pilot? Because if he couldn't fly, he couldn't have gotten there in the first place. Yeah, see?
He would have found a way.
There's a lot more into it. So if he hadn't been a pilot, it wouldn't have gotten blown up, and then everybody would have lost.
No Galactic taxi service? No Galactic Uber?
Not at that time.
Oh, well, that's a shame.
Well, hang on, think this. He just happened to be a pilot. He grew up on a farm and just happened to be a good pilot. So for whatever reason, if he wasn't a good pilot, if he didn't grow up around like the right plane at the right time, and he didn't learn to fly from a young age, he would have not been able to fly the X-Wing to the Death Star. If he doesn't do that, he would have been there to blow it up.
Technically, he wasn't flying planes.
I'm sorry, piloting
Spears.
a starship, a low-level starship.
When did he do that on Tatooine as a slave boy?
He even they don't ever show it, but they talk about it. He said was it a T-16 he said he used to have? That's the line. He used to bullseye womp rats in a T-16.
I suppose.
Yeah, see?
It's a fair point.
But then, okay, where's that story at? Where's the story of, who bought him the plane? I don't think his, farmer uncle's going to have the money to fly it, to have his own plane.
I don't know. Have you seen some of the houses of some of these Indiana farmers? They got money.
Fair, but I mean, I don't think out in the middle of the desert on Tatooine. I mean, Uncle Owen didn't really look like he had a whole lot of.
I mean, whether you're harvesting water or harvesting corn, what's the big difference?
Supply and demand.
I would say on Tatooine, water's in pretty high demand.
True, but then you got to get into you got to ship it to where it needs to go. Then you got to find reasonable prices. Then you're competing with other moisture farmers.
That's what the T1 was for.
I don't think we know. I mean, I've seen pictures of it, but I don't think it has the capability to carry that much.
Well, maybe we need to explore that a little bit more.
Maybe Disney needs to. They got the money. They got the time. They're not doing anything else right now.
They don't have the creativity. We can all agree on that one. They are not creative enough for that.
I don't know. Maybe they just don't have the time and energy or the motivation like we do.
They got the time and the money, not the creativity.
Well, I mean, if they're going to make us bores with the shows like The Acolyte and not Lower, it wasn't Lower Decks. That's Star Trek. What's the one that had a bunch of kids in it? That what was the name of that one?
I don't remember because that's how bad it sucked.
You know what I'm talking about, though?
Yes, I do.
I can't remember the name of it. I think I watched half an episode and had to shut it off. I was not.
It'll come to us before the end of the episode, I'm sure.
Most likely, yeah. But anyways, so getting back to arguing for the Empire as if nothing else, good, bad, like them, love them, hate them, whatever. At least a somewhat stable system as opposed to kind of everybody doing their own thing. I mean, that's could be argued that that's the reason why the Separatists did what they did in the first place, because they weren't a fan of the Republic. They were starting to splinter everything. What I like to, I'm gonna show my water in the shot. Nope, it's like Dasani, drink everything. I don't know what the Dasani logo is. But
I thought you were a coffee guy.
I am a coffee guy, but I got to balance. Apparently, I don't drink enough water. I get yelled at too easily for it.
Okay.
But I totally lost my train of thought. Empire is a system. Like them, love them, hate them. But at the end of the day, is a lot better than all the splintering, all the splintering systems that made up the separatist movement. And I got a feeling that it was a big enough deal to where, okay, if they had that many people, that many, many forces against the original Republic, there had to be something to it. There had to be some validity to their argument. And without the Empire consolidating them all at the end, I feel like it would have just gotten worse and worse.
So my argument to that would be, the rebels were going to establish a republic-like system that resembled what they all remembered the republic being, which lasted thousands of years. The Galactic Empire could barely do what, 30 years, 40 years at most, not even. So I'd
Give or
say their
take.
system had tons of flaws. It was not the better system because it did not last. It was over before it really began.
Yeah, but didn't the whole thing like come and go in waves? Like, wasn't there like so you had the Republic, but didn't you have like before that there was like a time where the Sith were in charge? Before that, that's when you get into the
Not of
Old
the
Republic.
galaxy.
So is the Old Republic like the Clone Wars era Republic, or is that like
The Old
thousands of years
Republic
before?
was thousands of years before.
Well, see, that's my point. So it comes and goes. So you got Republic, Sith, Republic again, Empire comes about, New Republic, and then I mean, if we want to acknowledge the First Order, in the sequel films,
That's Disney created. No one acknowledges that as anything.
I mean, it kind of was.
We kind of wish it never existed.
I mean, in the Legends series, like before Disney came along, I feel like, I mean, there was, I mean, it wasn't the new order or something like it was like the remnants of the Empire, so it wasn't like a new thing, but there was some kind of like new thing coming about. But, anyways, so if nothing else, like I said, you like them, love them, you hate them, whatever. If nothing else, I feel like it's really difficult to argue that, hey, if nothing else, it was a somewhat stable system in place, especially given the fact that it literally got started overnight or in the course of a week, and then they had to figure out all these problems to make it run right off the bat.
I wouldn't say overnight. That was a plan decades in the making.
Yeah, but see,
It's not something they just spontaneously came up with. I mean, you don't create a clone army for that purpose overnight. That's decades in the making.
Yeah, but the army's one thing, but then you got to think the entire.
Without the army, there's no republic or no empire.
Yeah, but it's not. You need more than just the army. You need the institutions. You need the structure. You need the mechanisms. You need all the the workforce. I mean, heck, just the sheer number of people you needed to build the Death Star, let alone Star Destroyers or anything else, and that's just military stuff.
Well, just ask Disney. They can just magically have 1,000 Death Stars appear on some barren planet with no resources. I disagree with your premise. Disney can make it happen out of thin air.
I mean, yeah, I have nothing to say to that.
No rebuttal?
Not on that. I mean, you got to give them some credit. There have been a few gems from the Disney side. I mean, Mandalorian, obviously, that good show without no question there.
The Kenobi series is an all-time classic now.
Kenobi series, what was it, Andor? That was really good. Really exploring the non-Skywalker type deal.
No? Not my cup of tea.
Really?
Not my cup of tea.
I thought you liked Andor.
No, I did not. I didn't hate it. It just was. It was great when I wanted to take a nap. So it's got its purposes, I guess.
Well, if nothing else, I feel like it did its job in trying to connect the leading up to the actual movie and then A New Hope. So it kind of connected those dots a little bit. But
I thought what was the movie that did that? I can't think of the name of it.
Rogue One.
Rogue One. Excellent. I thought that did an excellent job tying things together, giving you kind of a backstory of how A New Hope started. Because A New Hope, let's be honest, kind of starts off in the middle of the story. It's if you think about it, it's kind of a confusing starting point, but I get it. But Rogue One did a really good job.
Well, and I think that's it too. I mean, I think that was almost, I don't know if it was like just a choice or that's kind of the way it happened to where, I mean, yes, you start right in the middle of the action. And so you have to be able to answer a lot of questions throughout the dialogue, the storytelling, or whatever. And I think it's essentially did that between, episodes 4 through 6 to where you're constantly trying to get those little bits of the backstory so you can get a complete picture of what actually is going on.
So I think the story was already there. I'm pretty sure I remember a George Lucas interview talking about this, where he kind of had to start where he started because he really wasn't sure it was going to take off anyways as a movie. So he kind of started in the middle so he can get more of the details, more of what we saw on film. Because had you started off with Rogue One, it probably doesn't gain its popularity, and there may not have been a second one. Because Rogue One, it's great now. We enjoy it, but it's because we enjoy the fandom of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you start off back in the 70s with Rogue One, I'm not sure that takes off as popular.
Oh, not at all. And I feel like, I mean, could you do it or could they have done it? Yes, but it's still, it wouldn't have worked out so well because I don't think that the lore really had the time to build.
No.
because I mean, by the time Rogue One comes out, it's like everybody's kind of chomping at the bit for like these in between stories, what happened leading up to it. And I feel like at least on some kind of level, Rogue One kind of satisfied that craving, and it kind of like ended on the bringing back the CGI Tarkin and the Leia like right at the end.
Actually, I'm not sure there was a craving. We didn't know we needed it. It's kind of how it felt. Like they just kind of announced it. You're like, man, I didn't know we needed this film, but we did.
Well, and I feel
it hit us. It scratched an itch we didn't know we had.
Well, and I feel like they, I think they did a good job. I mean, I can't remember exactly, but I think when it was coming out, the trailers and all that, they didn't really like specify like how it was all going to tie in. Like they kind of hinted at it, but I don't think until like the last half hour of the movie when you started everything kind of concluding like, oh, that's how they got to that. That's how they wound up with that, and that's how we wound up at the beginning of episode 4.
Yeah,
at the the chase going on.
Yeah, no, it had the interest there.
Yeah. So I mean, overall, really solid all around. All right, kind of keep us on. A little bit there. Kind of keep us on track. Obviously, I think we brought up a couple of these. Obviously, the Empire as a system had plenty of weaknesses, plenty of flaws, and I think on the whole, the Rebellion kind of exploited these. First and foremost, singular point of failure. Between the Emperor, Vader, and then the Death Stars. Essentially, 4 giant targets that you take those out, and it essentially cripples the Empire.
Yeah, no, I agree. The biggest weakness is the command structure. Everything began and ended with the Emperor. You can't have that. You got to be able to delegate those tasks. That way, when one head gets chopped off, 2 of them grow back, right? Like the Hydra. And that's definitely their biggest weakness. They lost the head of state, and things just crumbled. It couldn't exist. Not only did you lose the head of the system, you lost Vader as well, all in the same day, and everyone's fighting for power, and things just got tore apart.
Well, and that's another thing. I think, and they never really explained this. They might hint to it a few times, but there was really no like chain of succession. Like, okay, obviously Emperor goes, you got Vader to take up the slack, but then okay, who's the next in the line of that? Wasn't really a thing. I think there was some like legend stories where Vader had like what was it, the Force Unleashed like book / game / whatever.
Yeah.
Where he had an apprentice for a while, and okay, maybe that would have been the next. But yeah, it's really never set up that way. It's kind of just single points of failure. They're done, and the whole thing crumbles.
Yeah, and like go back to your point on the overstretched resources. There's a reason why Vader hated the Death Star projects. It was dumping a ton of money and resources into a single focal point that was an easy target.
Yeah. Well, and just, I mean, like you said, the sheer amount of resources, time, effort, and I think it's, it's not really explained in any of the shows or movies, but, as we talked about in the past, I'm a big fan of the Thrawn series. And one of his big arguments was instead of wasting all these time, effort, and resources on the Death Star, if you put those same ones into, say, like, ships, the fleet, it wasn't all in one area. They could, they're a little bit more mobile. It wasn't all just in one place. And, if that would have happened.
Even with their Star Destroyers, there was heavily armored battleships, basically. They didn't have an air force, per se. They had some ships. The movies make it seem like they had an endless amount of starfighters, but they didn't. Their main focus was their battleships, their Star Destroyers. And that was something in the books that Vader did not like. He was not a fan of that. He thought that the Navy should have been better resource to cover a broader variety of different scenarios.
I mean, if nothing else, so it's like, even if the Death Star was like more mobile and more like versatile, I mean, okay, it can only be in one place. There's only one. It can only be in one spot at a time. Whereas, 1,000 Star Destroyers, okay, you can have some over here, some over there, and just, cover your ground a little bit.
Yeah, a better police force, basically.
Well, and if that was the case, okay, say...
Hold on, we got to make a point to point out a green Power Ranger walking through the crowd. Ugh, badass.
That's with the lightsaber, too. I mean, green Power Ranger by himself is already, like
no shit.
Defeat anybody, but Green Ranger with not just the dagger, but the lightsaber, yeah, that's, you've lost already. Just go home.
Yeah. Yep. Respect.
Dang it, I lost my train of thought again.
Yep. Green Power Ranger Jedi will do that to you.
You know what? I'm not mad. That just makes it the day all the more interesting. All right, so shifting gears a little bit, now shifting over to the Rebel side. So main strengths of them, basically the opposites of the Empire, where the Empire was very centralized, single points of failure, it was very decentralized. Like, okay, if you kill a couple of them or knock off a couple of them, there's still plenty to kind of pick up the slack where it need be. Probably not really by design, but because there's so many different factions, you couldn't just stop it with one.
Well, the thing with the Rebel Alliance is each individual faction, or whatever you want to call them, kind of developed independently before they kind of unified. Mm-hmm. So they already had a command structure that was building naturally in the background, and then obviously their giant spy network they had, the underground networks they had, that by the nature of their society, they had to be able to function autonomously. You couldn't be in command or constant contact with your commanders, because that adds the risk of getting ousted as traitors.
Yeah.
So you had to be able to function independently to minimize your risks.
Well, I think at least, the way I understand it for the majority of the time, yes, that eventually happened, but I feel like it happened like as an accident. Like it wasn't really planned. Like by the time they actually became like a combined, like everybody working together, they already kind of had that decentralized structure. So that advantage you just described, it just came naturally. They didn't really have to try to do it. They just kept doing their existing thing. But okay, at times they're kind of working together.
Yeah, and they had the Force on their side, so that helps. That was definitely a strength.
See, I'll go against you on that one, because I don't think the Force. I think it's neutral. You can't say they had their Force on their side when Vader and the Emperor were doing. They had the Force as well. So it doesn't really take sides. It just is.
Yeah, but they were worried about.
Yeah. See.
Whatever. I won't argue that point.
I guess that's why there's the light side and the dark side. I guess I don't know. Song for another time.
What's darker, the dark side of the Force, or that coffee there you're drinking?
This is actually pretty smooth. Going to our manufacturers back there in the back, the Merlin's Munchies Coffee Company, located to our direct back, doing a great job today at PopCon, and supplying us with our house favorite, the Highlander Grog, complete with
let me get a look at that.
Butterscotch, caramel, vanilla, and a variety of other flavors.
Show that to the fans.
Yes, highly recommend. Woke me up this morning, it's keeping me going throughout this podcast today and throughout the event. Yeah, great stuff all around.
Definitely recommend it.
But with that being said, covered most of the strengths. Difficult to eliminate. But what about some of the weaknesses of the Rebel side? What are some of the I guess obvious issues they kind of run into?
Oh, well, their biggest weakness is resources. And Army, just everything. They had weaknesses across the board. Their Navy was weaker, their Air Force weaker, they had less troops, they had less resources, less money. The only thing on their side was the Chosen One's son. And that's really their only good strength. And the autonomy of the Rebel Alliance, where you could lose certain pieces of it, things still function and flow. That's definitely a strength, but the weakness is definitely their resources.
I'll agree with you 98%, but the existing 2%, I'll tell you, Luke was great and everything, but he would have been blasted out of the sky. You would never heard from him again if Solo hadn't come in at the last minute and took out Darth Vader's TIE fighter. Or TIE bomber, excuse me.
Maybe.
There's no maybe. He had him locked in the sights. He'd have been blown all over space.
That doesn't matter. He could have force pushed that away. Or, we would have seen some crazy stuff there.
Yeah, but come on. If you're doing alternative storyline, if Han Solo hadn't been there, would have really survived? So it could be argued that he was the one who ended up saving everybody. So sure, he destroyed the first Death Star, by himself, but without Han, Luke would have been dead a long time ago, and nothing else would have happened.
I don't know if I can agree with that.
Then Yoda would have been the only one really left, and maybe that's when he reached out to Leia. When they talk about, she was the actual, secondary chosen one or whatever. And hey, who knows? That'd have been actually a really good story. I feel like that's one of those things when we typed it into AI, said, hey, how would the story have progressed if we'd done this? I feel like that's the way it would have gone. Okay,
yeah,
Luke dies.
It had to. Because they kind of allude to it in the movie a little bit, like there's another.
They hint at it, and, hey, maybe they still would have succeeded or maybe not. He had a little bit of a head start as far as training goes. I don't think she ever, at least in the main movies, showed her becoming...
Yeah, no. Disney had the bratted idea of trying to train her how to use a lightsaber. Could you imagine her? So, Well, we'll just move on. We'll just move on. Nothing good's going to come out of my mouth. We'll move on.
Anyways, so one of the points we have here, we brought up as a kind of a strength they have. Yes, it's kind of decentralized. It's really hard to get rid of, but also arguing for the weakness of that, to where if you have like 20 different people in charge, there's no that centralized, decision maker. It's really hard to get anything done. So, going back to the whole idea of the empire, love them, hate them, whatever. Okay, if there's only one person making the calls, the decisions can be made quickly, as opposed to, we're going to take a week, a month, or whatever to get everybody to agree, if they agree at all.
As far as what? I don't feel like the Empire was like that. They had a general direction they were going. The commanders all knew the kind of general direction, be an a-hole to everybody, and you're good. Because you had like Thrawn and some of those commanders that were doing other things.
Sure.
They had a general direction. I wouldn't say that every decision had to go to the top.
True, but I mean, at least in comparison to the rebels, to where there wasn't that. There's like, I mean, you didn't even have a consensus in the Rebel Alliance of whether or not, okay, what the overall goal was. Was it just to make things better? Was it to completely overthrow the Empire? Was it to just, hey, keep them off our backs while we do our own things? And that's when you get into the storyline of like what Saw Gerrera and like all these different factions, to where they had different goals, they had different motivations, and
I think the ultimate goal was to dethrone the Emperor. The underlying goal for every faction was that, to take control back from the Empire.
Yeah, but how many people, like at least at the time, really saw that as being realistic? I mean, even just in the movie Rogue One, we sit there and see, everybody is just scared out of their wits of, yes, even just the thought of a Death Star, let alone, so how many people genuinely thought, oh yeah, we can pull all these random people together and overthrow this entire
Wouldn't the thought of a Death Star scare the crap out of you too?
Well, yeah, I'm not disputing that in the slightest, but what I'm saying is, realistically, how many people thought, oh yeah, we can do this, we can overthrow the Empire, we can get rid of them. I mean, as opposed to, okay, I'm just trying to survive. I'm not trying to, start a revolution. I'm just trying to get by the day.
I don't know. We're living in a time right now where people are considering overthrowing an empire. Look at North Korea. They think about it every day.
Well, it's always never a boring discussion as far as, and that's part of the theme of the high ground. At times, tying sci-fi fantasy to stuff we see in our everyday, whether it be day-to-day stuff.
This is where fantasy meets reality.
This is where fantasy meets reality. You were not wrong. One last point here. It's not quite as groundbreaking as the others, but bring up the idea of non-standardized resources. So you take something like the Empire, to where everything's standardized. Like every stormtrooper has the same kind of blaster. They have the same equipment. They have the same ships, this, that, and the other. Whereas the Rebellion, it's essentially piecemeal. You got, Bob Joe over here has got his shotgun laser blaster. You got this guy over here, he's got his pistol from his, truck. And then you got some guys with, it's all piecemeal. It's all a little bit, as opposed to,
I don't recall seeing trucks in the Star Wars universe.
Okay, what's the Starfighter version of a truck?
I don't know.
I guarantee.
Oh, the Millennium Falcon.
You know what? That's probably not too far off. No, that's like a, well, I want to say Winnebago, but that's the only reason, because I think back to Spaceballs, how the Millennium Falcon in Spaceballs was literally a Winnebago.
Yeah. Okay, so, fair point. Well, I'll concede. You can have the high ground on that one.
Oh, I finally win one. But just, I mean, if nothing else, even being generous, it might make things more difficult overall. You have different ships, different equipment, different, and if we're trying to all work together and everybody's bringing something different to the table, okay, you spend even more time trying to figure out, well, we can't share, blasters, we can't share equipment because mine doesn't work with yours and vice versa. And if nothing else, just causing, more problems than, on top of, we had to go fight somebody.
True, but wouldn't that also make it harder for the Empire to plan against? Because you don't know. You don't know what you're going to be fighting against. You don't know what they're going to do because they don't know what they're going to do. So would that not be a strength for them, for the Rebels?
No, I agree with that 100%. And there's like going back to previous examples in real life. There's plenty of examples of that, to where sometimes that piecemealing, a little bit of here, a little bit of there, hey, that ends up being, hey, yeah, you can't predict it, you can't plan against it, and so it becomes all the more chaotic. But either way. All right, so taking all of that into account, based on all the different all the strengths, weaknesses, etc., from a completely objective perspective of taking good and evil out of the equation for a second. Which side has the high ground? Is it the Empire with its order, unity, its cohesion, or is it the Galactic? Not Galactic. I keep wanting to say Republic. I keep forgetting the name.
Rebel Alliance.
The Rebel Alliance. Yeah, thank you.
Well, seeing how George Lucas decided they won the war, they got the high ground. End of story. They get the trump card.
Yes, but for how long? They won the war, and then what? Fast forward 10, 15 years, and then
we're decades in the making. They still haven't lost.
Wait. So, yeah, but are you talking about the Disney after the Empire? Or are you talking about like the?
I don't think anybody talks about Disney after the Empire. Let's be honest.
I'm telling you, you really got to read more into the legends, like before Disney came along. Okay, the post-Empire, that whole storyline, because
that was a different timeline, though. We're in the Disney timeline, and it sucks.
I feel like that made George Lucas so mad that I feel like he's going to consider buying it back, or at least finding some way to like make his own.
I've seen some articles that have suggested he's made attempts at it, but Disney's still making a killing on it. They could produce nothing but crap. Guess what? We're dumb enough to keep buying it.
Well, the story's already written. He's already like the canon, like the script literature. It's already there. It literally just converted into even like an animated show they could pull off because all the source material is already written. I mean, whether it be the books, comics, it's out there.
Actually, I had a good thought on that. I was watching a YouTube video the other day that brought up the different lightsaber duels throughout the series. Brings up specifically the Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Darth Maul fight. Then transitions to the most iconic Anakin Obi-Wan fight on Mustafar, and then it poses the question: how do we go from this to Rey and Kylo fighting on Endor? And it's slow. It's crap. It is crap. And I have a rebuttal to that. It would, in my view, it wouldn't have been realistic to have an Anakin Obi-Wan style of fight with those two characters because she just picked a lightsaber up. And you're going to expect her immediately to be a trained fighter? I mean, Obi-Wan and Anakin were trained for decades on lightsaber combat and were at war. They're going to be better, naturally. Same with Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Maul. They were trained for decades to be fighters. So it would not have been realistic. I feel like, it was crap on screen, what we saw in the newer films. But honestly, it's more realistic. It's what you would have expected out of somebody that just picked that lightsaber up.
You know what? I think I've heard that same argument before, but I think the way you just put it, I think makes a lot more sense because, you could also use that back in the original series, like, when the first lightsaber battle between Luke and Vader, to where it's more slow, it's more like, they look like their lightsabers are heavier. It's not nearly as...
They look like they're fencing more than battling.
It's not nearly as crazy, but same argument, Luke just picked it up like last week, so he's not really going to be, as...
Yeah, and he was fighting a mechanical elderly man, so
and it's
not going to be slow.
Well, it's not like where you had Anakin and Obi-Wan where, they're fighting through the Clone Wars, so not just fighting with lightsabers, but deflecting blaster bolts, using it for all these other things, to which you would have to be more, maneuverable, more...
agile.
More agile to, just survive, let alone come out on top. And then, like you said, fast forward to the whole Rey, Kylo Ren thing, I guess you can make the argument that Kylo Ren maybe had a little bit more time in training, but still... not nearly as much if, like, allegedly he went to the dark side a few years before the movie started. So, once again, he didn't have decades to make it happen.
No, but he was trained by Luke, so that should count for something. So that one's a little bit harder to explain.
Well, I guess you could probably make the argument that he left before Luke got to that point in the training.
So how you explain that is, had he been fighting like you would expect him to fight, the movie would have been over pretty quickly, and that would have been boring to watch. That would have been a 10-minute movie.
Yeah, and I think, I'll give part of the credit to that, but I feel like you also got to at least give a significant part of the credit to a significant part of the credit to the idea that his emotions got the better of him a lot of times. Like he's a lot more
clouded.
He's a lot more clouded. And anyways, actually, that's a perfect segue into our last session here, and we're actually asking. Yes, we have a few guests in our audience here today. The second part, if anybody would be willing, we were originally gonna put something up on a screen, but we have to do it this way. But just honestly trying to get some honest input and opinion, if anybody wouldn't mind. So we have a couple of questions I've gone back and forth between me and Matt in the podcast before, but honestly just getting a fresh perspective on things. So first one, thinking back to all six. Yeah, we're not including the new ones. All primary six of the Star Wars movies. In your opinions, the most iconic lightsaber duel. Three choices. Episode 1, where you have Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul in the Duel of Fates. Choice 2, Anakin versus Obi-Wan in Episode 3. And then finally, the Luke versus Vader fight in Episode 5. As far as being iconic, as far as being memorable, as far as being, hey, if you had to pick one to show somebody, which one would you pick and why? Hey, can we turn these mics on?
Oh crap! So this is my crowd mic right here.
No, please. Yeah, please do it. Do it up.
Slip it down for your.
Absolutely. Will it stretch all that way? Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Definitely Obi-Wan versus Anakin.
Definitely Obi-Wan versus Anakin. All right. I'd like for you to
Definitely Obi-Wan versus Anakin because fire, spinning. I mean, come on, spinning. There was spinning involved there. There was also the lightsaber change that you were supposed to see.
Well, and I feel like if nothing else, it's got an extra element where, okay, everybody knew it was coming. Like, just kind of the build-up to it. It's like, okay, it's coming. Oh my God, it's finally here. And then it's like, yeah, you're excited while it's going on, but then you finally realize, okay, in the back of your mind, you know how it ends, and you're almost like, oh, it's coming, and it's going to end up on a bad note, what happened, but it's still exciting at the time. Please.
Definitely number 2.
Definitely number 2.
It's always about that mentor versus mentee type of conflict where always the mentee think they're better than the mentor.
You know what? Well, even like right towards the end, I mean, just the emotions that came out with it. I mean, it was sort of like crying at the end because screams, "You're my brother. I loved you." And it's like, just kind of seeing this the hurt pain in his eyes. It's almost like you're sitting in the audience, especially for the first time. It's like, you're sitting there watching a movie, enjoying, and all of a sudden, grown man, just in tears. All right. Next one. This slightly off in left field, and best fictional technology. Now we're talking about this as far as like if we could snap our fingers and make this instantly available, like in your pocket today, you could use it. Which would be the most useful? Which would be the most you would like to take home with you? So obviously on the list we have lightsabers, but then we have hyperdrive, the ability to go faster than light. Droids, just in general, whether it be protocol, wants to help you out, fixing things, whatever. Droids in general, or there we go, or back to tanks. Essentially, throw you in a tank on death's doorstep, could heal you, almost cure you of anything. Is that too hard?
Hyperdrive.
Hyperdrive? Why?
Travel fast, much faster, anywhere you want to go.
Travel much faster anywhere you want to go. No longer get stuck in traffic or, especially around Indianapolis, right?
I'm an old man. I'm going with the back to tank.
You know what? I think that'd be a good question to ask going forward. Like, it can heal you if you're wounded, but can it help like take back aging a little bit? Like, can it make it like? I mean, I don't think they ever explored that. I feel like that'd be a good.
Pain stop.
Just help with the shoulder and the knees a little bit. All right, all right. Last one. He had an instant on this, but I feel like I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like it's a pretty good spread. So, best of these four that you would want to have a 1 hour dinner and or getting a drink with. These four characters. we have Qui-Gon Jinn, you have Din Djarin, or the Mandalorian, Han Solo, and finally Captain Rex. Of those four, who do you spend an hour with at dinner and drinks with? Just sitting down, having a conversation, having a good time.
Han Solo.
Insert words out of his mouth.
Fixer of the trade. Fixer of the trade.
Yeah, but wouldn't you be worried that, you said the wrong thing and all of a sudden then he pulls the blaster out from under the table and all of a sudden, Guido's you right there in front of everybody and Steak and Shake?
Now let you make a deal.
Din Djarin.
Din Djarin. See, it ain't not a total wash. Why Din Djarin?
Just to ask him why, they're never allowed to take off their helmets. It makes no sense.
I mean, that's a good question.
I'd be curious to see how he has dinner and drink without taking the helmet.
I know, right?
That would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Well, hang on. Would they even let him in the restaurant, though? Because, some restaurants, they make you, take the coat off, and they make you dress nice. I think they let him even in the restaurant.
Yeah, I know, but he doesn't have to take off his helmet.
You didn't tell him no. I think I'm turning you down. You have to go to, you have to get drive-through. You have to go to, one of those drive-up restaurants, where they couldn't, That's fair. But, I got nothing to do.
I wouldn't choose any of those four. I'm going for Mace Windu.
Mace Windu. Ooh. I didn't think about that.
He lectured him the whole time.
I'm just saying, we can use the words we like to think of.
Well, true.
All right. I'll buy that.
Yeah, that's it.
Make sure he's on the list for next time. Well, honestly, pretty decent spread. I mean, okay, I at least got one that wasn't, or two that wasn't Han Solo, so I'm about to win. Well, all right. So, slowly as we're wrapping things up here, once again, great time at Indy PopCon. Thanks a lot for, what's your name again, pal? Brennan, thanks a lot for helping us out. This is just the setup, but then also the audience interaction. We didn't even know that was going to be a thing, so appreciate it. So just a heads up, everybody listening, Indy PopCon, a great event. If you guys been here before, always a great time to come back again. Walk around, a little something for everybody. Good merchandise, good people, good events. Occasional celebrity to walk into. I think Sean Astin's doing his live thing right now at the same time slot. I think he might have a slightly bigger crowd than we like.
I disagree.
No, maybe nobody showed up for him. Maybe he said about it. Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's bigger, but
I mean, what could be a bigger compliment? Well, that'll about do it for all of us here at the High Ground. But for all of us listening here at Live PopCon, stay nerdy, stay knowledgeable,
and always take the high ground. And I've been naughty. I'm getting arrested right now. I go freely.
We'll put him in handcuffs. Alrighty, thank you, the High Ground.